Chapter 11. It is hard for me to remember the first moments of my life. Everything was confusing. I saw, heard, felt, and smelled many things at the same time. I did not understand what was happening. After some time, the light became strong and hurt my eyes, so I closed them. Then it became dark again, and I did not like that either. When I opened my eyes again, the light returned. I stood up and started walking. At first, I had felt surrounded by darkness, but now I could move more freely. The bright light and the heat from the sun made me tired, so I looked for a shady place. I found a forest near Ingolstadt and lay down beside a small stream. I felt very tired, hungry, and thirsty. I ate some berries from the trees and drank from the stream. Then I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was night. I was cold and scared. I had taken some clothes before leaving your room, but they were not enough to keep me warm. I felt very alone and sad. I didn't understand anything around me, and I cried. Soon, the sky became lighter, and I felt a little better. I saw a bright light rising from the trees. It was the sun. I looked at it with wonder. I searched for more berries. I was still cold, but I found a big cloak under a tree. I used it to cover myself and sat down. My mind was still confused. I saw light and darkness, heard many sounds, and smelled many things. The only thing I could clearly see was the moon, and I liked to look at it. Days and nights passed. Slowly, I started to understand my senses better. I saw the water in the stream and the green trees. I was happy when I realized that the sweet sounds I often heard came from birds. I tried to copy their songs, but I couldn't. I also tried to speak, but the sounds I made were strange and scared me. One day, I found a fire left by some poor people. The heat made me feel so happy. I put my hand in the fire but burned it and cried out in pain. I was surprised. How could something that felt so good also hurt me? I saw that the fire was made of wood. I collected more wood, but it was wet and didn't burn. I watched carefully and saw the wood near the fire got dry and then burned. I learned how to keep the fire going by drying the wood first. At night, I was afraid the fire would die, so I covered it with dry wood and leaves. Then I lay down and slept. In the morning, I checked the fire and was happy it still burned. I made a fan from some branches to help the fire grow again. I also found that the fire gave light and helped cook food. I tried cooking some leftover food the people had left. The roasted food tasted better than raw berries. I began to cook nuts and roots, and they tasted much nicer than before. But soon food became hard to find. I spent whole days looking for acorns and other things to eat. I decided to leave the forest and look for a new place to live, where it would be easier to find food. I was very sad to leave the fire because I didn't know how to make it again. I thought about it for a long time, but gave up. I put on my cloak and walked west through the forest. I walked for 3 days and finally came to open land. It had snowed the night before, and the fields were white. It was cold, and my feet hurt. Early in the morning, I saw a small hut on a hill. It was probably used by a shepherd. I was curious and looked at it closely. The door was open, so I went in. An old man was inside, sitting near a fire and making breakfast. He saw me and screamed loudly. Then he ran away faster than I thought he could. I didn't understand why he ran, but I liked the hut. It was warm and dry. I found some food, bread, cheese, milk, and wine. I didn't like the wine, but I ate everything else. Then I lay down on the straw and slept. When I woke up, the sun was shining. I took the leftover food, put it in a bag I found, and started walking again. After walking all day, I came to a village. I was amazed. There were huts, nice little houses, and big buildings. I saw vegetables, milk, and cheese in the windows. I entered one of the houses. But the children screamed, and a woman fainted. Soon many people came. Some ran away, but others threw stones at me. I was hurt and ran into the countryside. I found a small, broken shelter near a cottage. It looked terrible, but it kept out the snow and rain. I decided to stay there. In the morning, I looked at the nearby cottage. My shelter was behind it, near a pigsty and a pool of water. I made sure no one could see me by blocking the holes with wood and stones, but I left a small way to get out. All the light came from the pigsty, but it was enough for me. I made the floor soft with straw and got some bread and a cup for water. The floor stayed dry, and the place was warm because it was near the cottage chimney. It felt like a nice home, much better than the forest. Soon, I saw a girl carrying a bucket on her head. She looked kind but sad. She wore simple clothes. After a short time, a young man met her and helped her carry the bucket. They went into the cottage. Later, I saw the man again with tools. He worked in the field while the girl worked around the house. I found a small hole in the wall of my shelter. Through it, I could see one room in the cottage. It was clean but had little furniture. An old man sat near a fire, looking sad. The girl did some work, then took something from a drawer and sat beside him. The old man started to play music on an instrument. It sounded more beautiful than anything I had heard before. The girl cried quietly, then knelt by the old man. He smiled and lifted her gently. Watching them made me feel something new, a mix of sadness and happiness. I could not explain the feeling, so I stepped away from the window. Later, the young man returned with a lot of wood. The girl helped him carry it inside. He showed her a loaf of bread and some cheese. She smiled and went to get some plants from the garden to cook. The young man worked in the garden, digging and collecting roots. After a while, she joined him, and they went back inside. While they worked, the old man sat alone and looked thoughtful. When the others returned, he smiled, and they all sat down to eat. After the meal, the girl cleaned the house again and the old man walked outside, leaning on the young man's arm. The old man looked kind and full of love. The young man was handsome, but looked very sad. When night came, I saw something amazing. The cottage stayed lit even after the sun went down. They used candles. I was happy because I could still watch them. In the evening, the girl and the young man worked on things I didn't understand. The old man played music again. Then the young man began to speak. It was not music, and it didn't sound like birds. I later learned he was reading aloud. But then, I didn't know about words or reading. After a while, they turned off the lights and went to sleep. Chapter 12. I lay on the straw in my little shelter, but I could not sleep. I kept thinking about what had happened that day. I was most surprised by how kind and gentle the people in the cottage were. I really wanted to talk to them, but I was too scared. I still remembered how badly the villagers treated me the night before. So, I decided to stay hidden in my small home for now. I would just watch the family and try to understand what made them act the way they did. The next morning, they woke up before the sun. The young woman cleaned the house and made breakfast. After eating, the young man left the house. That day was the same as the one before. The young man worked outside, and the girl worked hard inside. The old man, who I soon saw was blind, spent his time playing music or sitting quietly. The young people loved and respected him very much. They were always gentle and caring with him, and he smiled at them with love. But they were not always happy. Sometimes the young man and the girl went away and cried. I didn't understand why they were sad, but I felt sad too. If such kind and beautiful people were unhappy, then maybe it was normal that I felt so lonely and sad too. But why were they unhappy? Their home looked warm and nice to me. They had a fire, good food, warm clothes, and they enjoyed each other's company. Why were they crying? I didn't understand at first, but over time I began to learn more. After some time, I found out one reason they were sad. They were poor, and their life was very hard. They ate only vegetables from their garden and a little milk from one cow. In winter, the cow gave very little milk because it hardly had enough food. Sometimes they were very hungry, especially the young man and the girl. Many times, they gave all the food to the old man and ate nothing themselves. This touched my heart. I used to take some of their food at night when they were asleep, but now I understood that it hurt them. So I stopped. Instead, I ate berries, nuts, and roots from the forest. I also found a way to help them. I saw that the young man spent a lot of time gathering wood. So, at night, I took his tools and brought back a lot of firewood for them. I quickly learned how to use the tools. I remember the first time I did this. In the morning, the young woman opened the door and was surprised to see a big pile of wood. She called out, and the young man came to look too. He was also surprised. I was happy because he stayed home that day to fix the cottage and work in the garden. After a while, I learned something even more amazing. These people talked to each other using words. Their voices could show happiness or sadness. This was like magic to me, and I really wanted to learn their language. But it was hard. They spoke quickly, and I didn't know what the words meant. Still, I watched and listened for many weeks. Slowly, I learned the names of some simple things: fire, milk, bread, and wood. I also learned their names. The old man was called Father. The girl was Sister or Agatha. The young man was Felix, brother, or son. I was so happy when I could say these words and understand what they meant. I learned more words too, like good, dearest, and unhappy, but I still didn't fully understand them. I spent the winter like this. I loved the kind ways and beauty of the family. When they were sad, I felt sad too. When they were happy, I was happy with them. I didn't see many other people. When someone else visited the cottage, they were usually rude or cold. This made the family seem even better to me. The old man often tried to cheer up his children. He spoke kindly and smiled. Agatha listened with respect. Sometimes she cried, but afterwards she looked happier. Felix was different. He looked very sad and seemed to have a heavy heart. But when he talked to the old man, he used a cheerful voice. I saw many small acts of kindness. Felix once brought Agatha the first small white flower he found under the snow. He also helped her in the morning. He cleared the path, brought water, and carried wood, though he was surprised to see the wood always waiting for him. I think he worked for a farmer during the day because he often left and came back without firewood. Other times, he worked in the garden or read to Agatha and the old man. I didn't understand this reading at first, but I noticed that Felix said many of the same words when reading and speaking. I guess the marks on the paper were signs that showed how to speak. I really wanted to understand them too, but it was hard. Still, I kept trying. I wanted to show myself to the family, but I knew I had to learn their language first. Maybe if I spoke kindly, they would see past my ugly face. I had seen how beautiful and graceful they were. When I saw my reflection in a pool of water, I was shocked. I looked like a monster. It made me very sad. As spring came, the snow melted. The trees were bare, but I could see the dark earth again. Felix worked more, and the family had more food. Their food was simple, but it was enough. New plants grew in the garden, and life got better for them. The old man went for walks with Felix when it didn't rain. I learned that rain was when water fell from the sky. When the wind blew, the ground dried quickly, and the days became nicer. My life stayed the same. I watched the family in the morning and slept when they were busy. I spent the evenings watching them again. At night, if there was moonlight or stars, I went into the woods to find food and firewood. I also cleaned their path and helped with chores, just like Felix. They were surprised by this. And sometimes I heard them say words like good spirit and wonderful, though I didn't know what those words meant yet. I started thinking more. I wanted to know why Felix and Agatha were so sad. I even believed that maybe I could help make them happy. I dreamed about meeting them. I imagined they would be afraid at first, but then would see my kind heart and start to like me. These thoughts made me work harder to learn their language. My voice was not soft like theirs, but I could say some words. I was like a donkey trying to act like a small dog, but a kind donkey still deserves kindness, right? Spring came fully, and everything looked beautiful. The birds sang, the trees grew new leaves, and people started working outside again. It was hard to believe that this happy place was cold and sad just a short time before. I felt hopeful. I forgot the pain of the past and looked forward to the future with joy.